Hi. Hi again. So I released this video last week, 2 weeks ago, maybe, and I really enjoyed making it. Uh, Seems like a lot of people enjoyed it. I got some really, really lovely messages, so thanks to everybody who watched. And I just was like, I want to do it again. I want to keep making videos where we're just gonna watch rides, watch things that are interesting. Maybe not just rides, maybe attractions, maybe some other stuff down the line. But yeah, I just figured if I enjoy it, keep doing it. It's the reason why anybody should be making anything. So we're going to be going through another ride. This time we're going to Epcot. You can actually see from the top here. The name's kind of spoiled it. Journey into Imagination with Figment. I remember riding this ride when I was very young. And I also remember when I was, oh God, I can't even remember. I was in primary school. I used to quite often, me and my sisters after school would go to our grand's house. And if my parents were working or if for whatever reason we would go to our grand's house, and usually I would just sit and watch TV or whatever. And one of the things we had was this VHS tape that was like a promo. It was like a mail. I think you mailed physically to order a VHS tape that had promotional, maybe like an hour, maybe 30 minutes. I don't really super remember, but and it basically was just like, here's, if you go on a holiday to Disney or the Disney parks, this is what you're going to see. And it would, try and entice. It was made mostly for kids, so it would, it have the kids try to convince their parents to take them. And in that, one of the things that just is like super burned into my memory, I was 5 when I first went to Disney World. And we did Epcot and everything like that, and I don't have a hugely strong memory of it, but thanks to videotapes that my uncle shot while we were there, and this video, Figment is very iconic to me, which is very strange considering I have this weird kind of non-memory of seeing Figment. But I'm aware that this ride that I saw that would have been 1994 has changed multiple times throughout the years. So this, I think, is the third. This video was shot in December 2019, so it will be the third version of Journey into Imagination. The history of that, you'll be able to find it. There's a couple of YouTube videos by Defunctland and Yesterworld, and they kind of go into the history of why this ride has changed, what exactly has changed, the business behind it, the Michael Eisner, the Kodak sponsorship, all of the mechanics of why it is different. But I figured I haven't seen this version of it. I haven't been to Epcot since 1994. So let's see what it looks like now. I'm just going to jump into it and we'll get going. I might have to adjust some of the audio levels because there's quite a bit of yeah, hold on. Make myself smaller here. Yeah, there's quite a bit of audio instructions, I think, like video screens of you can see over. Actually, I can rewind that a little bit because you can see his face. It's oh god, I'm gonna say Eric Idle. It's one of the Monty Python guys. I know some people who'd be very mad at me for getting that wrong. I think it's Eric Idle. If it's not Eric Idle, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So he is this new character, Dr. Nigel, I believe that says Channing. It used to be the Dreamfinder. So the Dreamfinder and Figment were the original characters. I'm not going to talk too much about the history of this stuff because I think it's best just to kind of focus on some of the more interesting design aspects of it. If you really want to know the history, go watch those channels that I had mentioned. But yeah, so right off the bat, like when I booted this video up, like to make sure it was okay, I was like, oh, those cars that they ride in are super, ridiculously dull, like crazy boring. They are unmarked, undesigned. They look like red blood cells, for a ride that was like going into the body. But that's not the theme of this. The theme of this is imagination. It's supposed to be like a lab. I realized that there was budget constraints that went into this one. Like this is kind of like a hatchet job of a previous version that was cut in half and moved around to the. But if I remember correctly, these are the original ones from when they did have the money, when they had the Kodak sponsorship and everything. So they did absolutely nothing with them. You can see they've got this bar here, but not on this one. So it's not something to be held on to then. So this bar is seemingly superfluous. The only other reason I can think is because this is lower than this, that if for whatever reason they had to prevent people from falling forward, which this is not a bumpy ride, this is like a slow dark ride. I don't know what, like none of this really seems, you've got these are the door sections that will open up to let you in on this side, but they haven't done anything on the other side, so it looks lopsided, and so you can't even really say that it's like a sleek, purposeful design. I'm very surprised by that. Yeah, and everything, like, even if you look down here, the way that they've markered everything off, and the way that the track looks, you've got this like griddle bit here. Usually, so this is Epcot, which has not necessarily a super different team that's building things. It should be held to the same standards as the rest of Disneyland, I would think. Disneyland, Disney World, because it's all under the same banner. So it just seems a bit odd to see something. Usually when you watch Disney ones, it's kind of everything is papered over. Everything is protected to keep the theme there. Whereas this just seems very almost off-brand version. I'm a bit worried. There's smell lab, touch lab, taste lab. I'd be a bit worried about the taste lab. I always hated that scene in Willy Wonka when they lick the wallpaper. It makes me want to vomit. It's horrific. Is that loud enough? Let's bring it up a bit.
Sure you'll see how the 5 human senses can help capture your imagination.
Oh, can I go too?
Absolutely not. This is one of our discoveries, the figment of imagination.
Yeah.
So, he was brought back by popular demand. He had a bit of a resurgence, so they took him out completely. There was a version originally that was designed, Dreamfinder and Figment, and they were like he was the mascot character, he was the eye catch, and Dreamfinder was the narrator of the experience, and Figment was just the way to string along the viewer. So when they went to the space section, you would have Figment wearing a spacesuit. It was all very cartoonish and child friendly and very inviting. And then when they did the new version, which is not the one we're looking at now, there's a version in between that did have Eric Idle / whoever the fuck he is. But they didn't have Figment. They completely stripped them out. But he became, I guess, through the vehicle of nostalgia, he became enough of a protected character that they brought him back when they did this third version. And there's Figment merchandise now. He is more of a character. So yeah, that was really, I don't know. I thought that was. It's a nice testament to the power of like a well-designed character that just hits just right with the story and with the feeling that you're trying to get across. Like if you do it right, when you take it away, people notice. Like they absolutely notice. It's yes, nostalgia plays a big part of it, but I think it's a testament to having an attraction for all ages that you redesign, not necessarily with all ages in mind. And yes, budget is a constraint, but yeah, I mean, they had to walk it back, so here he is. I'm going to restart his wee section.
Go to!
Absolutely not. This is one of our discoveries, the figment of imagination.
Yeah, I know all about the senses. There's sight, sound, smell, touch, goochie goochie goo, and taste. Taste my chicken. Can I go? Please, please, please.
No, I don't want you out of my sight.
Out of sight? Okay. Come on, everybody. Here we go!
Figment, you are not to interfere with the tour.
So they've changed Figment, his personality. He's a lot more like rambunctious, cheeky kind of character, which might be, you know, the original was quite a few decades earlier. Quite a few decades? No, like it's quite a bit earlier. Whereas this was launched in like post 2000s. In fact, the budget for the budget for, I can't remember if it was the third version or the second version, was affected by 9/11 because 9/11 caused a massive like effect on the tourism industry in America, so they had to cut the budget for the redesign. But yeah, with this one, they've changed him, and you know, knowing the 2000s, I could see, yeah, like that makes perfect sense. Now, if you're looking at attractions now, or if you're looking at cartoons now, or you know, the generation of now, and I don't want to make sweeping generalizations because I'm 31, so I don't have a full grasp of generations now comparatively. So I could see why in the 90s and in the late 90s and in the early 2000s there would have been that more like, well, he's got to have attitude, he's got to have character, he's got to have some cheekiness to him, because you don't want him to be that white bread kind of just a bit middle of the road, like, come on y'all, let's go and learn about imagination. But also it has a nice neat narrative. Like once you've made that decision, you're like, okay, well, they have to get from A to B to C to D, and they have to go along this journey. Well, now you've got a character that's dragging them through it, and you've got the Eric Idle, who would now be, you know, considered the comedic straight man for this for the duo, you know, whereas Dreamfinder and Figment were both equally like, come on everybody, let's go on a journey. Now it's, come on, I'm gonna go ride that ride, and let's go like lick some wallpaper. You disgusting freak. I hate it so much. It's horrible, that scene. Otherwise, flawless film. But so now you've got Eric Idle kind of being like, no, and running from room to room. Like, I can kind of see already from that first video what we're about to enter into. Like, you've kind of laid out the foundation for people to understand it. And by having Figment, so little things like by having Figment start in these video panels, so regardless of where people are on this track, because they've all got a panel each basically per cart, Figment dashes off, flies around.
I don't want you out of my sight.
Out of sight? Okay. Come on, everybody. Here
no,
we
he doesn't.
go.
Oh, okay, so he disappears in the smoke. Eric Idle is going to exit stage left.
Figment, you are not to interfere with the
He's looking
tour.
stage left, which is the direction that the audience are going to be moving. So, nice, neat. It seems simple, but it's the kind of thing that can be missed. Either, you know, when they're doing the storyboarding or the scripting or the shooting or the installation. It's the kind of thing that can be missed, you know, without making sure that you've got people keeping an eye out for stuff like that. Yeah.
Our first stop is the Sound Lab. We'll begin by testing your hearing with a series of tones. Left ear, right ear. Left, right. What? This is odd.
So that, I'm assuming that's just, I mean, you could tell by the way it played in the ears, that's just basic binaural sound, having speakers on different sides of this track, so nothing particularly fascinating there.
Hello?
Hello?
Who is this?
It's Figment!
Figment? I thought I told you not to interfere.
But you've got it wrong, Doc. It's not about listening with your ears. It's about listening with your imagination.
So Figment's design hasn't changed too drastically. The thing about it, like, oh, I would love one of these. People actually own these props now. You know, for the old rides. You know, the old puppets and everything. Like collectors have them, which is like, oh my god, could you imagine? That would be like the greatest thing ever. But the actual core design of them didn't really change that much. They might have changed his eyes. I don't think they did. They kept the small wings, the horns are the same shape, like everything seems to be the same. But you've got
listening with your ears.
Really simple yellow eyes, which was that a bold choice? Because yellow eyes aren't typically nice, inviting, friendly character. I'm sure there's examples that I'm forgetting, but yeah, I feel like that's kind of like you know, why doesn't he have white eyes? But you've got the nice yellow on the yellow jumper with the red details. So the wings, the horns, and the cuffs and the neck, all red. The fingernails even are red. So you've got 3 basic colors, which is nice for like a nice rounded, cute character. Like, it's very simple. But also what you've also got is it's cheaper to make, less detail, less color, less paint, less, you know, keep it nice and simple.
Next stop, imagination. For every sound your ears are hearing, 1,000 thoughts can start appearing, and each of us.
So I mean, the sound one's kind of lost on us because we're not there actually in the thing in the room. But the song. So there was a song originally, and again they took it out. I actually wanted to play. I remember when I was looking up stuff for this. This is the original song that was rejected. Thank God. You'll see why it was rejected.
Imagination helps create. The original theme song of the ride was recorded by frequent Disney songwriter Robert Mullen.
Let's all take a journey into imagination, where inspiration goes far beyond our world of space and time.
But this was rejected, and the even more frequent Disney song.
Thank God that was rejected, because that's dog crap. But yeah, they went for like a really simple, I say simple, a really classic, that's what I mean to say. Nothing about music is simple. One Little Spark. So it's like a really traditional Disney sound.
Imagines different things from just a sound. Your mind has wings.
Like the scales kind of going up, having that playful like major key, like even that invokes that feeling of like having an idea, like a light bulb moment. Which is, I mean, Epcot, the entirety of Epcot was designed around the idea of inspiration. Like the whole, very, very originally, it was conceived by Walt as being like an actual city. Like it's like an actual place that people live, that is this kind of future town. It's the whole, I'm not going to get into that because you could talk about that for ages, but it was evolved and changed, and then became like a more classic theme park with the attractions individually. But the thing that wrapped around everything that kept it all together was this feeling of inspiration, technological advancements. So I think the thing that they wanted to invoke with Epcot, the thing that wrapped around everything, is you go there, you go on the different rides, and then when you leave, you feel like full of ideas and full of inspiration. So this one, you know, based on imagination, still has that inspiration built through it. Like, it's not just imagination for the sake of it. It's not just imagination. It's just like, hey guys, how good is it to think things? It's what can we wield imagination to do? Like, what can we do? How can we improve things? How can you kind of tap into that childish, free thinking, blue sky mentality, which is also a huge part of being like an Imagineer, and the huge reason why, or part of the feeling that Disney parks want to instill in you, is that anything is possible. Like, you hear these phrases used in songs and in marketing and everything around Disney, is that anything is possible. It's good to feel like a child. It's good to embrace these things, like, you know, be nice, these kind of basic tenets. And yes, it is a corporation, and yes, they're, you know, they chase a profit margin and everything. But when the people who make the things that bring those people money, you know, when everybody's ragging on Disney or corporations that make entertainment products, when you peel that layer away, you know, and it is a layer that wraps around the whole thing. I'm not trying to be pro-capitalist here. I'm not trying to protect corporations here. I'm not being, you know, your dutiful little consumer. But what I want to celebrate, and why I make these videos and why I watch a lot of documentaries about these things, is the thing that inspires me is people making stuff, is people getting together and wanting to make something that inspires people or affects people or makes people think a certain thing or communicates an idea or opens up a new part of someone's mind. It's those people who are making those small decisions, who are deciding, well, how can we best communicate that? What color should we use for this? How should we set the lights up here? All that stuff in every form of art and any form of creative collaboration is, to me, everything that matters. It's all that matters. It's my whole world. It's what I kind of live for in a lot of ways. And I think with a ride like this, and with Epcot and with Disney, yes, it's easy to kind of be quite cynical and pull it back, but I think it's nice just to lean into it every now and again. Because why not? Because why not? You know?
Continuing now, if I may, in a calm, scientific, figment-free manner, the things we see with our eyes can control the eyes of the imagination. Let's begin by using the eye
Sets are
chart
very
to test
stripped back.
vision. Now, all together, if you would please read line 3. And
Like, if you look, there's so much dead space that usually with a ride, usually with an attraction, you would kind of want there to be some semblance of like that feeling of movement. Like if you've got a lab and you're trying to say to kids, like, how cool is it to do science? I feel like there would be more of an effort to make it feel like a fun playgroundy kind of, I don't know when to say mad scientist, but that kind of like a, oh, I made this thing that does this, and then, you know, over there they're making a thing that does that, and like it has that energy to it. There's no energy here. It's I mean, you've got like a really basic seeing eye puzzle it's not even slanted, it's straight, and a bunch of dead zone, and then 2 post-it notes. Like, these are just like seeing eye puzzles. That's literally the same one. Like, it's the same premise. I'm really surprised at a lot of this.
F-I-G-N-E-N-T, you can see things differently. Sure, you can see with your eyes, but imagine what you could see if you used your imagination.
And it's ironic they're talking about seeing, because I feel, okay, what I've just realized is this whole scene might change, and that I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, I think that's going to happen. Before I say anything else, I'm going to just...
Follow the bouncing figment.
It better not just be a screen.
Sparkling light can light your fancy. Your mind sees more than what your eyes see.
No, it is. It's just a screen. That's like so ridiculously basic. Dead wall between spaces. Like, they haven't even used darkness to kind of like blend the spaces together. That's just a big corrugated metal wall.
Imagination must be captured and controlled.
Imagination works best when it's set free.
Hello. That was like quite a cool. That's quite a cool
Imagination must be captured
visual.
and controlled.
Imagination
It
works
disappears,
best
but
when
the
it's set free.
swing remains.
Just turn your
That's
imagination
neat. I mean, it's a mirror, but that's neat.
Anything can happen.
I can see why you would make that a set piece, but again, look, you've got quite obvious lights, and I realized that this is probably shot with like a low light camera. So I can't fully comment on that because I feel like, you know, if you're there in the moment, you might not even notice these things.
Figment? Oh, he's gone. Our research shows that
What was that
smells-
space? What was even the point of that space?
He's gone.
Smell lab, and it's just canisters with the word like cookies written on it.
Our research shows that
There's nothing enticing there at all. Like, surely there's got to be some interesting stuff you could have put in there in the cheap.
smells often trigger the imagination, especially when pleasant, familiar smells come into play.
Coming to play? I'd love to.
Figment, this is not a good time.
It's always a good time to use your imagination, so let the good times roll. Woohoo! You win 1 cent.
Figment, don't!
I mean, we're not getting the smell right now, so you know,
Really stinks.
use your imagination, I
The
guess.
nose goes. One awful whiff can send you reeling. One lovely sniff can be appealing. Your mind will be fine when it enters through your nose. That's how you tell a skunk is not a road.
You know,
So in terms of theming, they're going for it's a lab. Like Eric Idle has been. I keep saying Eric Idle in the hopes that it is Eric Idle. They keep repeating that they're in his lab, so it would make sense that everything looks like a lab. But there's a certain flatness to everything. I mean, it started with the ride carriages, but there's a certain flatness to everything.
after that big
It feels like dioramas, separate dioramas, rather than like if you watch my last video, we talked a bit about blending the story throughout and using different techniques, different spotlights, different placing, different pacing of elements to kind of keep you in that world that whole time and not let go of that. Whereas here it's like you get in a car and they take you to a room and then they walk you over to another room and you look at that and then you walk to another room and you look at that, and the narration is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It's trying to do a lot of heavy
I
lifting.
hesitate to send you into the touch and taste labs. Perhaps I should end my open house right here.
Great idea. We'll go to my open house instead. It's much more fun. Right this way, everybody.
Figment, what is going on? You're turning this entire open house upside down.
Upside down? Now you're talking. That's the best idea you've had all day. With just a spark of inspiration, I made my house an innovation. Imagination really comes around.
Oh, no.
Things downside up and upside down.
Oh no. It's just so basic.
Now here's a real open house. Come on in. So what do you think? Is it me? But Doc, it's exactly what
I can't help but thinking about how, so if you're stripping it back to the initial pitch, the initial feeling that you want people to take away, or the initial thing you're trying to communicate, it's anything is possible with imagination. It's blue sky thinking. It's imagination drives all these cool ideas, and if you push it, if you keep pushing it, you can find something amazing. They flipped the room upside down. Go.
Imagination is the brains of the house.
Of course! Imagination is just turning your head upside.
I will say, for an attraction point of view, if you're sat in those carriages, it's always good when you're watching through these things to kind of remind yourself, try to kind of put yourself into a carriage and imagine what it's like being in there. Like with the smell one and the sound one, like, is that more fun than it is, sat here? Of course the answer is yes, but just how much? And I do like when, if you're in a dark ride, that there's an incentive for you to look around and to use your body and to look up. If you are having the person look around and be immersed into a new space, I think it's always good to kind of use that space, really let it breathe out, and don't be afraid to have people look around. I think if you've got something like Haunted Mansion, for example, there are times when you need people to be looking at a very specific point. But I think if you've got, like, for example, the point in this story is that the characters, like, free your imagination, free your mind. It makes sense to go from a very forward-facing ride to then suddenly, pulling back the curtain, opening all the doors and windows and pulling the ceiling off of the roof and just being like, oh my god, look at all of this, the possibilities here. So yeah, it makes sense to do that and to have stuff on the roof. It's a cool idea, but it's not enough, I think, for the level that we're talking about here. Like, we're talking about a ride that was made in the 2000s. We're talking about something as part of Disney's official theme parks. Like, it's part of Epcot. This isn't. Yeah, I think the expectations would be a bit higher, and these look very odd. It feels like a proof of concept ride. They're like, well, look what we can do. If you give us X amount more money, we'll be able to add all this other stuff.
Join us. We all have sparks.
Imagination. That's how our minds create creations.
We set them free.
And that was the big set piece, was the upside down room, apparently.
From me and you. You see, Doc, I knew you'd get it, because you got a wonderful imagination.
I do. Oh, yes. Well, thank you, Figment. And so, as you can plainly see,
weird dead space there.
imagination works the best when it's set free.
You said it, Doc. Imagination is a blast. Imagination.
Oh. So this is the big set piece, not the upside down room.
Our inspiration is at the heart of all creation, right at the start of everything.
I didn't like that. I didn't like the moon. We're just in this big, ugly looking lab room.
I invite you to set your imaginations free in the image world.
Yeah, so thanks again for DLP Welcome. It's a great channel for finding these ride walkthroughs. I don't know, it's... Am I being too harsh? What do you think? It just seemed to me like if you're going to strip it back to the core idea, to the core premise that you're trying to get across to all ages, not just people who remember Figment from, the 90s. It doesn't seem like it's really meeting the brief for me. Like, it feels like it's about imagination. It should be bigger than it was. It should have been more imaginative. And to be honest, part of me thinks, well, they were on a budget. But the part of me thinks, but even if you're on a budget, surely there's more that could have been done. But on paper, it's really easy to come up with cool ideas. And on paper, and in pitches, and in discussions with other creatives, it's easy to come up with cool ideas. And it's easy to look at someone else's creation and go, oh, well, you could have done this, you could have done that. With attractions specifically, with any medium, that there's always going to be different elements that you're going to run to that make things harder, that people don't necessarily realize. People don't realize why films are made the way they are. People don't necessarily realize why decisions were made at the time when, that's all you can do. It's just make decisions. With attractions, you've got things like longevity, materials, the space that you've got, in the building, where the electrics are, where the track can go. There's so many constrictions. There's so many problems that you need to solve that, yes, it's all great to have this brilliant idea that you pitch and everybody goes, oh, that's a brilliant idea, let's go for it. But then you go to actually make it and you realize, we can't do that. That cool finale that we had planned, the big set piece, we can't put it there. Or if we put it there, we're going to have to make it smaller. And if we make it smaller, then what's the point in even doing it? And you're always going to be at odds. I imagine the tension between Imagineers and engineers. I imagine that's a constant. I imagine that's like a very difficult thing to... I imagine that's a very difficult thing to parse between. As we were going through the ride, I was commenting on a lot of things like empty space. Yes, I think those things can be tackled, but perhaps there was a reason for it. You would have to talk to the person who made it or the people who worked on it. But I think ultimately my gut feeling is a room like this with just a big screen, when you're telling the audience about imagining using their eyeballs, like use your sense of sight and your imagination and combine them together to do something fantastic, and what you've presented them is a big yellow wall. It doesn't quite work for me. But an interesting challenge. Like, what would you do? Like, if you're sitting here watching this, like, what would you do in that space, and how would you pitch it to people to be like, can we do this? Can we do that? And yeah. Imagine it from when you're in the 2000s, and then imagine it now. If someone came to you now and said, it's 2020, we want to update Journey into Imagination, we've got all this new technology, sight, sound, smell, taste, wallpapers, the whole lot, what would you do with it? I think that would be quite a fun wee challenge, so have a think about it. Oh man, part of me wants to say, put your answers in the comments, but I feel dirty saying that stuff. So I'm going to be making more videos. To be honest, I kind of want to watch another one that is something that's a bit less negative. I want to do a bit of both. I want to dip in and out of stuff that's crap and stuff that's good and things in between, and figure out what we think. But I tried to go into these dry. I don't watch the run throughs beforehand. I'll maybe watch like a little thing if I remember that there was some factoids. I was like, oh, that stuff was really interesting, but I can't quite remember it. I'll go back and watch them. But yeah, I'm watching them as you're watching them. So definitely more to come for sure. I'm going to be doing more, and yeah. See you next time.